Why was the Black Prince so called? Reverend.
Well, if my Ladybird Book of Princes is to be trusted, it's because he had black armour.
It's the one occasion where the inestimable Ladybird series has let you down. There is
Is it like Reservoir Dogs, where basically they weren't allowed to use their first names and they got to sign it? So you're the Black Knight, you're the White Knight, you're the Orange Knight, you're the Pink Knight. Why do I have to be the Pink Knight?
I don't want
Just
to
the Pink Knight.
be. It might as well be. Yes.
Was he black?
Oddly enough, his mother was perhaps of Moorish descent.
Oh.
Philippa of Hainault, which is a tube line, isn't it?
Hainault is very near where I grew up.
Oh, there you are.
Like, Hainault.
Hainault. Do you like Hainault?
Hainault was silly.
Is Hainault good? What happened?
I don't know.
Did something happen there?
I find at the end of every tube line you do get a good
I think it falls to me to rescue this somehow.
Yes, I think you should. Yes.
Did you know that the oldest British door comes from Hainault?
No.
Well, the wood it's in Westminster Abbey. It's a door which connects a cloister to the abbey, and the canons of Westminster live behind it. And they dated their door, and they found that the wood it was made from was growing in Hainault in the 10th century.
Wow. Are you proud?
I am very proud of the door.
sign painters getting busy right now, going home of the oldest door.
It's a reason to get off at Hainault, finally.
Yeah.
It's the wood that grew there 1,000 years ago.
Yeah. Well, Philippa of Hainault was perhaps of Moorish descent, so that may be the reason he was called the Black Prince. We just don't know.
I'm wondering, do you think the Black Prince might have been called the Black Prince because his sins were as black as pitch?
Yes. I mean, although he was known as the master of chivalry, he almost destroyed the entire population of Limoges and Caen.
Yeah.
So there we are. King Henrys of England have there been?
Say it.
8.
Still 9, in fact. Henry II had a son who was known as young King Henry, who, according to the French tradition, was anointed king while Henry II, his father, was still alive. So he wasn't given a regnal number of 3, but he was king, and he died at age 27 or so. And he was quite an amusing fellow. He was very popular. He died young, but when he was 17, he got in trouble with his father for refusing to turn up home at the castle for Christmas. Instead, he held a feast in Normandy in which he invited only knights whose names were William. It's a randomly peculiar thing to do. Anyway.
So he was actually Henry's the second and a half?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
I love the idea of that party, though. The idea he's been to so many royal events and fancy weddings and gone, I can't remember everyone's name, I feel so impolite. I just want Williams, and then he just arrived and went, hello, William. You all right, William? William.
Yeah, exactly. Saves you having to bother the name, like the Beefsteak Club in London, where all the staff are called Charles, whatever their names are. So you hear people going, oh, hello, Charles. I thought Charles would be in the bar today. No, my lord, Charles was ill, so Charles has taken his place.
Is this a real place?
This is a real place called the Beefsteak Club.
You're a member of that, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
It's a very old and mysterious club and very good fun. Don't mock me.
Yeah, we just go to a cafe, but...
Makes you more real.
Charles. Oh, Charles. Yes, Charles. Yes, a tea, please. 2 teas. Yeah.
The staff from there are probably watching this going, oh, it's that Stephen Fry. He thinks everyone's called Charles. Someone's just told you that the first day you arrived. It's a big practical joke on you.
Did they also ask you to go for a long wait?
Now, name the Queen's official residence.
I'll go Balmoral.
Ah! No.
Oh, I'm going 2A, Pall Mall.
2A Pall Mall, SW1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say official residence, Buckingham Palace. I meant Windsor Castle.
No! Windsor Castle!
I mean, actually, a submarine is sinking somewhere.
Yeah.
The
Jeremy Claxon.
Sandringham.
Sorry?
Sandringham.
Oh, Alany, woo, not Sandringham.
Feeling left out.
Yeah.
Got 3 different pictures of
3A
it.
Pall
It's
Mall.
got a palace.
3A. Yes, 3A. Centre Park. Sorry, I don't know. The Eagle's Nest.
Does she have a static caravan?
If you are the American ambassador, but you present your credentials to
Actually, the Queen.
the court of...
Well,
St James's Palace, is that...
That is the right answer. If only I could
I
award
wish
you
I
more
didn't have
points
this
than you
speech
lost.
impediment that made Buckingham
James's
sound...
Palace is the official residence of the monarch. Although she does, of course, spend most of her time in her second, third, fourth, fifth home.
How would you make your house the most famous house in Britain?
Oh, that's easy.
Yep.
You murder lots and lots of people, dismember them, and bury them in the garden.
That...
You marry the Queen. You marry the Queen,
Yes.
and you say, you're not living there in those... No, love, you're not living in those palaces anymore.
You're living in 3 Ironside Crescent,
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Those would work. Yep, those would work.
Some sort of spectacular suicide? I suppose, actually, the murdering people would work better,
Murdering is
which I
probably
think
the
is
best.
sad.
But this is a
Is it
bet.
balloons? Is it like in the film Up? You just tie loads of balloons and your house goes... "Ooh."
Oh, that would be sweet. That would
Yeah.
this was a bet that took place in 1810 between Samuel Beazley and Theodore Hook. That Hook couldn't make any house he chose the most famous residence in London in 1 week. He had a week in which to do it, but in fact he sort of... I mean, he prepared over the week, but it all happened in
heard
one
of
day.
this.
Yeah?
He started
You know this?
ordering goods, all kinds of different
Yeah.
goods from all kinds
4,000 different tradesmen and services in all the commercial directories all over London. He started ordering chimney sweeps. So first thing in the morning, there were 12 chimney sweeps, all arriving like that. And then more and more and more and more and more arrived. I mean, it became absolutely gigantic. 12 coal carts, there were cake makers, doctors, apothecaries, surgeons, lawyers, priests for
We've all
dead
done
bodies,
this, haven't we?
undergraduates, hat makers, haberdashers, bootmakers, fishmongers, butchers' boys. A dozen pianos arrived. And before long, the governor of the Bank of England had turned up to see what the fuss was about. It was in Berners Street, just off north of Oxford Street. And there it is.
That
Well, fine.
sign doesn't fit that bit of wall.
It doesn't really. And yet, I suppose if they put it the way it would, you'd have to read it in portrait rather
Just
than
needed to go back to the
landscape.
drawing board with that one.
I think you're
Got
right.
that all wrong.
Or just chill out about the whole thing.
Could have folded it round, mate.
Is it a bit like... So the equivalent is like going on the internet and ordering the lot?
Yes, exactly.
I'll have everything.
Exactly, basically. And the poor woman whose name was Mrs. Tottenham was just besieged. I mean,
So the
it wasn't
He-
his house.
He didn't live there.
No, he chose it. No, he just chose this house. That was the point of the bet. I can make that house, 54 Berners Street, the most famous house in London. Theodore Hook betted a man called Beazley that he could make 54 Berners Street the most famous house in London. Which good cause benefited from Britain's first lottery? Dale Winton. Dale Winton's tanning salon.
I'm sure it did very well,
There you go.
but it wasn't Britain's first lottery.
Is it the Bank of England?
No, that's a very good point. That was almost like a lottery. There
Yeah.
shares were issued to raise money. And
For the army,
virtually, yes, it was virtually like a lottery. But this one was similarly to raise money for a military venture, or at least for a military, perhaps for defence, originally.
The Drake.
Yes, it was indeed in 1567.
It was Drake.
So, well, it was, yeah, it was...
What's that doing in my
It
head?
was, yeah.
in my head.
I'm very impressed. It was Queen Elizabeth and her navy, and indeed Drake was one of her leading figures. There she is. It was. She realised that should King Philip of Spain send the fleet, which in Spanish is
Armada.
Armada, yes.
I'm genuinely still reeling from the fact that's in my head.
It's really great when that happens, isn't it?
No, it's odd. It's a little weird.
And so she thought to raise money, she'd try and get those who could afford it to buy lottery tickets, and the prize would be enormous. And the money raised would be enormous. Now, what do you think the average wage was per year?
It can't have been much.
No, it wasn't much. The average annual income in 1600 was about £9.
Oh.
So tickets were 50 pence, we've called it now, 10 shillings each, which is about 3 weeks' wages.
Yeah.
So only the rich would be able to.
Only the rich would be able to. The prize on there was £5,000, 5,000 then pounds, which is millions today.
Buy America.
You buy a huge estate. Plus, it was paid partly in cash, but also in gold and silver and fine tapestry and fabrics, and something really extraordinary to encourage sales. And this later cropped up in one of the most popular games in our culture as something that you could tuck away under the board of the game for future
Monopoly, a
use.
get out of jail free card.
You've got a get out of jail free card for anything except murder, serious felonies, treason,
Parking.
Yeah. Obviously, that was not allowed. Or piracy, that was one thing. But everything else was, very good,
I
wasn't
would
it?
sell tickets now.
Yeah, brilliant idea.
What comes from Glasgow and glows in the dark?
Is it Sir Alex Ferguson's nose?
Is it the River Clyde?
It's not the River Clyde, neither. We're talking about food.
Luminous food.
Yes, luminous food. It's an idea that comes from creatures like the anglerfish.
Is it a deep-fried Mars bar with a torch attached to it?
A deep-fried torch.
Well, you're in the right. You're in the right area with deep fried. What I believe you call carryouts are the food to go.
Yeah.
What is the most popular food in Britain supposedly these days?
Chicken tikka masala.
Chicken tikka masala, which was invented in Glasgow, and there is one.
Oh, that's a particularly fine example.
That may be a used one that's been through the system. I have a horrible feeling.
Morag, get me a bed of rice. The children shall eat.
Well, there is a company called Biolume, which is planning to have food, including curry, that glows in the dark, using extracts of marine creatures that glow. And they want to make beer, in particular, that glows in the dark, children's fizzy drinks that glow in the dark. Chicken tikka masala is not something that exists in Bangladesh or in India. The story of it goes that there was a restaurant called the Gaylord in 1966, was the first place to serve a proper chicken tandoori.
In Glasgow?
Rather popular.
Or London?
In London, Mortimer Street in London. And the story goes, somebody came into a restaurant in Glasgow where they were serving this new tandoori chicken and asked for some gravy to go on it. And the chef improvised with tomato soup and cream and spices. And up grew this strange creature that is chicken tikka masala, that has no definition, that can be hot, it can be mild, it can be brown, it can be orange, it can be grey. But according to Robin Cook, is the great British national
I have to
dish.
say, I had a curry once on the Isle of Man where I was doing a gig. It was served with a cup of tea and some bread and butter. It's fantastic, don't you?
Can I just mention that since we're being disparaging about the Scottish diet, that we don't all eat chips every night. Sometimes what we do is we'll have some chips and leave them aside till the morning, and we have them cold the next day, and that's a salad.
Deep fried pizza is and Mars bars.
It's a myth.
It's a myth.
Not a myth. The Mars bar as well. It happened once. He dropped his Mars bar. I'm not wasting that. He scorched his hand getting the wrapper off.
Slavery become a criminal offence in England. It was not in the 19th
one of these odd little new Labour laws in about 1996, 7, 8.
What an odd law to outlaw slavery. Is political correctness gone mad?
I only mean odd in the sense that it's a bit late.
Yes, that's exactly right. It was 1807 when the slave
1807
trade
was
was
the first
ended, and then finally in 1834 it was illegal anywhere in the British Empire to own a slave. It has never been illegal to have a slave in England until April 2010. I'm saying I could have had you as a slave legally.
You mean this series I'm finally free?
Yes!
But you know what? I mean, one of those slaves who just goes back to the master. I don't know what to do. I work for you anyway, please.
I'll tell you one thing is that there are now estimated to be 27 million people held essentially in bondage, in slavery on this planet.
But the show will be over soon.
More,
You can go.
Yeah.
Right now?
More than there ever were in the days of cotton picking and so on.
27 million?
27 million.
In the world?
Yeah, that is the estimate. It's pretty grim problem still, slavery. The point is, it was never illegal in England because it was
never recognised as a state of being.
Oh, there's all
There was
kinds
no
of...
such-
I
you
wish
know,
I'd known that.
there were laws against kidnapping and abduction and false imprisonment and sexual trafficking and all the other things that we might associate with slavery. But it was not illegal for one human to own another human, which it now is.
So this is a law that... This isn't one of those laws where they thought, oh, that needs clearing up. It's a loose end from history.
It kind of was. In 1967, there were a number of obsolete crimes that were taken care of. Barratry had been illegal right up to 1967, which is vexatious lawsuits.
Oh,
Barratry.
Building of
vexatious.
Yeah, what they call a vexatious litigant, somebody who just keeps...
Dorothy Squires.
Yes.
Dorothy Squires, the singer Dorothy Squires, towards the end of her life, when she did have a mania, but she was probably the last person to be done for vexatious litigants.
And if you kept prosecuting someone for it, you'd be prosecuting them.
Yourself?
Yeah, well, it's completely... Anyway, there's scolding. Scolding was a crime in 1966, but not in 1967.
With hot water, you mean?
No, not scalding. Scalding. Scalding!
That was a crime.
You! What time of the night do you call this, Eddie Izzard?
12.
Yes.
12:30.
Well, they give you a good scolding.
And that was illegal?
That was illegal.
Illegal?
Yeah.
And that was legal?
Eavesdropping was illegal. Challenging someone to a fight was also illegal until 1967.
What about going round and round and round about more than 3 times?
It certainly wouldn't have been a medieval law, would it?
Well, I don't know. And if you're in a horse and cart, you have a couple of hours spare.
On a medieval roundabout.
On a medieval roundabout.
Yes. Anyway, there you are. Due to a quirk of English law, it only became a criminal offence to keep a slave in the year 2010. So you just missed your chance. You succeeded Harold as King of England in 1066.
Is there a trick to it?
No, it's just you need to name the person who succeeded Harold as king in 1066.
Well, was it the
Don't
bastard?
trust him.
The trick is
I
to know.
know.
The trick is to know the answer.
I don't trust you at all.
Is it the bastard, then?
Who's the bastard? Oh dear.
See?
It was not a trick.
Did England cease to exist in some way, or was it changed in name?
There was another Saxon claimant who was nominally king for 45 seconds or something.
Well, for a few months.
Right.
Yes, yes. Edgar Atheling. And he was 15 years old. But Saxon kings were... How did you become a king if you were Saxon?
Did you have to be sort of
You had to be from
nominated?
one of the 5 or 6 families, and then you'd be elected. Yeah.
It's like the
By what? By votes? They
Yes.
would vote for you?
Yes. Edgar the Atheling. He was 15 years old, but of course William had won the battle, and so he came after him and he tried to fight. He couldn't raise an army, he went abroad, didn't really live
Well,
a
he's
very
15,
successful life.
so he wouldn't have been able to do anything, would he, really?
Edgar the Atheling was proclaimed king by the English after the death of Harold and reigned for 2 months before William was crowned. Who built Britain's railways?
Look out! Look out! This...
Oh, Jesus! I say. By the way, I have my own train here. Look at that. There. Isn't that fun? And I have sweets which I can load on and deliver to any particularly interesting answers this evening. So there's an extra incentive. However,
This is turning into my perfect house. More toast, please.
Wallace and Gromit.
But you have first to address the question of who built our railways.
Richard Branson.
Oh.
No, it's not elephants. Large creatures were trained to trample down areas of Britain to be very, very flat. The railway mouse.
Well, you're right, actually.
No.
That because... Well...
Sweet. That's a sweet. That's a sweet.
You're right, actually, comma, in saying... in
saying words.
big comma. In saying that railways had to be flat in the days when they were built in Britain, which were the very earliest days because we were the country that invented the steam locomotive and the railway system. And they weren't powerful enough engines to go up hills or to go even really round bends, so they had to be straight and they had to be flat.
Were they built by the wrong type of builder?
Well, at the time, they were thought they were the much-mocked navvy. They were called navvies. They were mostly Irish.
Yes,
and they
yes.
were an extraordinary example of man muscle. They really were. It took a year to train a navvy.
Whoa,
You
look
fed
at
them
them.
on meat and beer. No Dagenham smiles there, very tightly done trousers. And they...
A Dagenham smile?
The Birmingham to London track took 5 years to build, and was the equivalent in work of building 1.5 Great Pyramids. It was an astonishing feat. Astonishing. These people were incredible. As I say, it took a year to train them. They lived on beer and meat, and they could outperform any other manual labourer. I mean, farm workers would be exhausted after a quarter of a day that the navvies could do.
I hear once that the Trans-Siberian Railway, which was meant to be a straight line, the Tsar got a ruler and he said, I want the railway perfectly straight, like this. And he got the ruler and he drew a line like that, but his fingers were over the edge. And in a couple of places, it did a big sort of detour like that. He went, build me that, go away, you, like that. And they went, oh, we better build it like he said. So they had to build 2 very big curves,
That's a lovely thought again.
That's a lovely thought.
I'd always assumed that the first railways that was...
All very well. Hey! We've got a sweet.
Let's get someone on the scene and go straight there now to see what's happening. It's absolute pandemonium, Stephen.
Oh, you had your sweet yet?
I haven't had it yet.
Oh, I'm not very good at being a back controller.
The right place. Can't be a virgin training, can it?
Why, for a sweet and a point, why are they called navvies?
Navigational engineers.
Oh, very good, very good. I'm so impressed.
Is that right?
They were responsible for digging what were called the internal navigation system, which was the canals. That's how they first came over, for digging canals. And then when the railway arrived, they did all the embankments and the tunnels and the extraordinary earth movement involved. There were horses were used for taking away the spoil, but everything else was human muscle.
Elephants as well, did you realise?
No elephants were used in the making of that railway line.
There were, just little ones. So London to Birmingham, or Birmingham to London, was the equivalent of what, 1.5 pyramids?
1.5 Great Pyramids, supposedly.
If only we'd put that to a vote, we would have had 1.5 pyramids. We didn't mean just a half a pyramid, we just thought we'd leave it.
We have the top half of the pyramid.
That's a pyramid. That's a pyramid, the top half, isn't it? It's only if the bottom half...
That's what I would choose.
It's an odd platform. So just keep slicing your pyramids.
Can have a sweet. There you are.
Gentlemen.
Oh, no!
Thank you very much.
Curses.
Who was Britain's first Prime Minister? Team, panel, friends. Wasn't it Walpole? Walpole? Oh, no. Shame on you. No, it wasn't. Lord Snooty.
Pitt.
Oh!
But you meant the younger.
Yes, you meant the younger.
The elder was a tree, wasn't he?
Was it some sort of king that proclaimed himself the Prime Minister before he handed over power?
No, he was a politician. It was in the last
Oliver
century.
Cromwell?
Oh, it was 100 years ago, almost exactly, that he became Prime
Disraeli?
Minister. 100 years ago. Oh, well, never mind. No. 100 years ago would be 1905, wouldn't it?
This show favours people who know stuff.
No, it's so unfair.
Someone like Roosevelt MacDonald?
No, he was a bit later. 1905 to 1908.
Campbell Bannerman.
Henry Campbell Bannerman. Well done, thank you, absolutely. Henry Campbell Bannerman. He's not perhaps the best known of our Prime Ministers, but he ought to have.
He was one of triplets as well.
He was actually a very good Prime Minister. He introduced old age pensions, he fought for the poor.
He was the first Prime Minister. What were they called?
They were called First Lord of the Treasury before that. He was the first one to be called Prime Minister.
First Lord of the Treasury?
Yeah, they're still First Lords of the Treasury if they're Prime Minister, but they're Prime Minister and First Lord of the Treasury now. Before they were simply... They used the word Prime Minister sometimes as an insult, but they were never called Prime Minister until 1905.
What was Ethelred the Unready?
He was a king. Yes. His last words, Henry Campbell Bannerman, were, "This is not the end of me." The term Prime Minister was first officially used in 1905, just 5 days after Campbell Bannerman became one. Sir Robert Walpole, generally recognised as the first king of both England and Scotland.
James I.
Sir. Is it Canute or something like that?
It's a little later than Canute, but you're right. It's pre-William I. Oh, dear me.
That's not how the crown looks, by the way. Maybe when the Queen goes to a British Lions rugby match.
She normally has a couple of Coke cans.
No, because actually James I was the first one to have what was called the Triple Crown of Scotland, Wales, England and Ireland, but not the first to have the double throne of Scotland and England. Who was?
Ethelbert.
That kind of Athel.
King Engelbert. King Engelbert Humperdinck.
Athelstan, King Athelstan, 937 AD.
His hand. He's got a hand like a Simpson.
Incredible we didn't know that.
King Constantine II of Scotland submitted to him in 937, as did the kings of Cornwall, Wales and Northumbria, when he became the first king of all Britain, Athelstan. I would also have allowed Edward I, which is wrong, but not as wrong as James I.
Why was Lord Hardwicke's Marriage Act so good for the Scottish tourist industry?
Lord Howard.
Something to do with kilts?
Gretna Green? Something to do with Gretna Green.
Japanese green is our word. Gretna Green, yes.
Yeah.
What's Gretna Green? Where's Gretna Green?
It's just inside
Where you elope to get married.
It's where people
Over
elope
the
to.
It's
border
just
from
over the border.
Yeah. But the point is, up until 1753, in Britain, you didn't need your parents' permission to get married. There were only 3 conditions that had to be satisfied to get married. You couldn't already be married, obviously. The girl had to be 12 or over. The boy had to be 14 or over. There mustn't be brother and sister. And that was it. You didn't even have to have witnesses.
Oh.
You just get married. But after 1753, because of inheritance and various legal wrangles and things that happened because it was so hard to prove people were married, the Hardwicke Act came in. But it didn't apply in Scotland. So young couples would elope, and the nearest place on the main road to Edinburgh, on the border, was Gretna Green. And in Gretna Green, as in England before this, you didn't have to be a priest, you didn't have to be a mayor or anything like that. And these blacksmiths, they were called anvil marriages, anvil weddings, these blacksmiths would perform it, thousands of them. But 5,000 weddings a year are performed in Gretna Green still, so still people think it romantic or whatever to go to.
Knock up a couple of rings while they're...
Name 3 Scottish inventions.
Oh, and you're going to say they weren't invented in Scotland?
I don't know, it depends what you say.
Well, television is always the one that's sort of claimed in it. Because John Logie Baird came up with one system. He came up with one system which wasn't used.
Alexander Graham Bell robbed the telephone.
Quite right, so certainly not Alexander Graham Bell.
Haggis.
Haggis, no. Not even haggis, you'd think, wouldn't you? Haggis was invented in ancient Rome.
Rubber tyres, we love.
Ah, rubber tyres you can have, I'll give you that.
Dunlop.
I'll give you Dunlop, yeah. But just to get through things that weren't, kilts were not. They were Irish. And the word kilt is a Danish word. Hogmanay is a French word. Did you know that? Yeah, aiguille à neuf, it's a French word. Whiskey was Italian. Even before that, probably Chinese, yeah? It's amazing, isn't it? Have you done anything in this bloody world, you may wonder? I will now tell you what they've invented.
Yes.
Scotch inventions and discoveries include adhesive stamps, the Australian national anthem, the Bank of England, bicycle pedals, the breech-loading rifle, you notice I'm going in alphabetical order, Bovril, the cell nucleus, chloroform, the cloud chamber, cornflower, a cure for malaria, the decimal point, the Encyclopedia Britannica, fountain pens, fingerprinting, hypnosis, hypodermic syringes, insulin, the kaleidoscope, the lawnmower, lime cordial, logarithms, lorries, marmalade, matches, motor insurance, paraffin, piano pedals, the postmark, pneumatic tyres, radar, the reflecting telescope, savings banks, the screw propeller, the speedometer, the steam hammer, raincoats, tarmac, teleprinters, tubular steel, typhoid vaccine, ultrasound scanners, the United States Navy, Universal Standard Time, vacuum flasks, wave-powered electricity generations, and wire rope. Goodness me, thank you. Well, you should be applauding the inventive Scots.
Yeah, and the population of Scotland's never been more than 5 million, so that's quite an achievement.
It is a
for that
shortbread.
Scotch eggs, Scotch pancakes.
Dundee cake.
Scotch tape.
Yes, but sitting in doorways, singing and crooning in a weirdly, inexplicably husky voice for some reason. I don't know why they do that. Where's that come from, that voice?
Why are there...
I know you gobshite. That's, sorry, for some reason what they say to me. But no, Alexander Graham Bell, for all that we've rather traduced him, he was involved in sonar, and he developed a hydrofoil which travelled at 70 miles an hour in 1919. He had a metal detector. It was used to find the bullet on Garfield, the president, after he'd been shot by an assassin's bullet, and unfortunately it didn't work. They didn't find the bullet. He said it was confused by the bed springs. So Garfield died. So there we are.
What would you hear at the most peaceful place in Britain?
I reckon dogging. Honestly, they're ruining the countryside.
We've got rights.
You've also got houses.
I think the answer is builders.
Builders?
Builders. Because that's what happens in all the most beautiful places of the land. All you can hear is builders.
Well, that is not the case, because we are looking at the most peaceful spot in Britain. It's been officially declared the Campaign to Protect Rural England. It is a region of Northumberland National Park. It's been left alone since 1911. 23% of this national park is owned by the MOD and is used for military training. So, remarkably quiet, unless a tank is going past. Yeah, or they're firing things at you.
There's one of them down in Lulworth Cove in Dorset, where there's a tank firing range, and there's massive traffic signs that just say, "Warning, sudden gunfire." I mean, I don't know about how the rest of you live, but all gunfire is sudden for me.
Yes.
I always wondered with that sign, it's a triangle with falling rocks, and it just says falling rocks. Yeah. That might as well just say, "Be lucky."
Yeah. The way you're driving along doing that, that's when you hit things, isn't it?
You'll get little beeps just as they come just above your car.
There won't be a beep. That's the annoying thing. There'll be no beep for that.
Got a beep
there won't be a roof beep.
Hey, does anybody else, when you go through one of those, you know, the height inhibitor into a certain car park, you're in a car and you know you're going to fit into it, but do you?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what my one is. I'll be driving along on the motorway and there'll be fog and I'll drive like that. Just in case the fog is in the car. There's a big sign saying fog. If you can see it, it's not that bad, is it?
Now, returning to our matters of special interest, Cockneys. What was the capital of England in the year 1381? Rory.
It's got to be Winchester or Chelmsford. Winchester.
Oh, brilliant. It is indeed Chelmsford. Very good for knowing that. It was only the capital for 5 days. Did you know that? But then, Rory, apart from being a very knowledgeable young man, well, 2 out of 3, you're also author of a series called Chelmsford 1, 2, 3.
Indeed, yeah.
So you should know about Chelmsford.
During the time you're writing about, Colchester was the capital of England, in
Yes,
fact.
it was.
Called Camalodunum.
Camalodunum. And what was Chelmsford called? By the
Caesarea Magnus.
Caesarea Magnus. Beauvais in France was also called that. But it's the only town, Chelmsford, in England to be named after Julius Caesar. Do you know what Charles Dickens called it? He said it was the dullest and most stupid spot on the face of the earth. Why was it capital of England? Richard II.
Wasn't he the Peasants' Revolt, Richard?
The Peasants' Revolt was going on.
And he moved away from London because Wat Tyler and all his horrible people were coming
He defeated the Peasants' Revolt at Billericay. Anything else interesting about Chelmsford? First ever factory making what in the world?
Radios.
Radios, well done. 5 points, right? Marconi set up shop in Chelmsford. Chelmsford has the largest Burns unit in Europe. Oddly enough, the MP for Chelmsford West is called Simon Burns, though because he got a Douglas at university, he is known as Third Degree Burns. That's very
What's so un-British about a roundabout? Yes, darling.
It's French.
Yes.
Ah.
You will
French.
not be surprised to know that is a family story.
Yes, Charles.
One of my forebears was married to the Emperor Napoleon III of France. Okay? The Emperor Napoleon III of France, in exile, lived in Southport. And this is true. And when he got back to Paris, when he was restored to become the head of, become Napoleon III again, he decided that Paris needed to be redesigned and chose a man called Haussmann to do it.
Yes, from whom we get Boulevard Haussmann and all those wonderful boulevards in Paris.
And he said, the design I would like is I've been in England in a place called Southport. and I would like it to look like Southport with these wide boulevards and these big circles. And that is why Paris looks like Southport.
Yes, but the actual roundabout was the invention of a French town planner who was called Eugénie Hénard at the turn of the 20th century.
Houseman had lots of people working for him, and...
Sorry, earlier, before the start of the show, Giles told me that my key card for my dressing room would also work on the tube. Is that true?
I mean, so Houseman did do a marvellous job in making the big boulevards, but the actual, what's called a carrefour giratoire, the roundabout, was a French town planner who otherwise is, I think, not really known. And so in 1907, British researchers were sent to observe it, and they copied it, and they installed the very first... Yes, darling?
You're going to find this almost impossible to believe. My father, this is getting really close now.
Yes.
My father was the legal advisor to the Automobile Association.
Right.
And a friend of Ernest Marples, who was the transport minister in the 1950s or 60s. My father went with Ernest Marples to help him open Britain's first roundabout in Letchworth, Newtown.
You are absolutely right.
Thank you. Thank you. Two.
I totally love this. So there's the Arc de Triomphe, which inspired Letchworth.
Can you see the red car? This is my dad.
How can you tell the difference between a Scouse dog, for example, and a Scottish dog? How could you tell a Scot from a Liverpudlian when you met them?
Accent.
Accent is the right answer.
Oh, you don't.
Oh, no.
Apparently, there's been a lot of research by the Canine Behaviour Centre in Cumbria, and you're going to possibly snort with derision when I tell you this, but owners and dogs left messages on the centre's answering machine. Experts then compared the pitch, tone, volume and length of the sounds made by human and dog. And they found that the Scouse and Scots dogs have the most distinctive accents. The Scouse dogs have higher-pitched voices than their equivalents.
I saw the other day that somebody's worked out that dolphins give one another names. They just don't. I mean, she's calling him Peter. He isn't.
So you really don't believe it?
No.
I believe it, yeah.
Thank you.
You go, woof, woof, all right. Or woof, woof, okay, the new.
So they're pretty stereotyped, accents, aren't they? Well, of course, it makes sense. I mean, a dog does imitate the behaviour of the pack it's in other words, the family or the owner. So, for example, terriers that live with families with children become very manic, and the same breed of terrier, indeed from the same family, if it's with an old lady, will start shuffling along looking forlorn way before it's time.
Do they smell of wee?
Did they say how old they are? I'm 7, you know. Possibly they do.
I'm 8 next year.
After Great Britain and Ireland, what is the third most populous island in the British Isles?
I know that you could get everybody in the world on the Isle of Wight and it would sink.
That is not the answer that I'm looking for. The Isle of Wight, in fact, would come fourth. I'm looking for the one that would come third. I'm looking for the most populous island. Yes.
Man?
Now, the man is not right. No.
Is it going to be somewhere far off?
No, it's not even far from the studio, actually. You could get there...
Oh,
Isle of Dogs. No. I'm not Indonesia. I was going to say you could get there in about an hour and a quarter on the train.
Isle of Thanet.
It's Portsea Island. It is where the city of Portsmouth lies. The island of Portsea has the highest population density of any of the UK's islands. In fact, Portsmouth is the only island city in the whole of the UK.
It's a complete island, is it?
Yeah. And it was one of the most heavily defended cities in the world during the Napoleonic Wars. It was the world's first mass production line. The Royal Navy made... pulley blocks were made there by, in fact, Mark Isambard Brunel. Isambard, Kingdom Brunel's father. The other thing they pioneered was free venereal disease clinics.
Why would you pay for venereal disease? Oh, to the...
No, yeah.
I'd pay for venereal disease.
Wow, let's all let that settle in for a minute.
I That's what the doctor said. It sort of works for the joke.
The idea that they'd say, I'd just let it settle
Let that settle in if I were you.
That's there for the winter. Let it settle in.
Here's a gorgeous painting by Turner. Where is this? Yes.
So Indonesia.
I'll give you a clue. Here are two paintings. I'll give you the titles if this helps. One is called Festive Lagoon Scene, Venice, and the other one's called Procession of Boats with Distant Smoke, Venice.
Is it Portsmouth?
Yes, it is Portsmouth. You're absolutely right.
Are you serious?
They were wrongly titled in the 1960s when they were exhibited in New York. They had nothing to do with Venice or
You
whatsoever.
said it as a joke.
Yes.
No, I just done an expert on Turner.
So annoying. If he had painted them in Indonesia, I would have been laughing now.
No, you're totally right. It was in 2003 that a curator at the Tate declared that they were not of Venice at all. They had been renamed the arrival of Louis Philippe, who was king at the time of France, at Portsmouth, 8th of October, 1844, and the disembarkation of Louis Philippe, 8th of October, 1844.
Well, that is also a stretch, isn't it? I mean, you can't see him coming or going, can you?
It's not the first time it's happened to a Turner painting. There was one which was identified as a view of Monte Rosa in Italy for over a century, and it turns out it's actually a pier in Scotland.
Which brings us back to Alan and maps.
What have I done?
Well, now there's a question for you. There's 100 points in this if you get it.
100 nectar points?
No. 100 points if you can tell me which was the last place in Britain to convert to Christianity.
Oh. God, I know this. Oh.
It's got... Any...
No.
Go on.
The summit of Ben Nevis.
Tube.
Two guys.
Underground.
Aye, what's this Christianity?
Any thoughts on this side of the table?
Is it a place called Satan is My Master
It's pronounced Semster.
Is it now on the British mainland, or is it something going to be the Falklands?
The Lake District.
No, it's not the Lake District. This is not on the British mainland.
Essex.
I repeat, it is not on the British mainland.
Not on the British mainland?
Essex is not culturally on the British mainland, but...
The Isle of Man.
Oh!
Isle of Wight?
Yes!
No!
It's the Isle of Wight. Oh, well done.
Flapping four. That was a total guess.
It was, of course.
Brilliant.
No, it's surprising because you would imagine, of course, that the Isle of Wight was about the first place the Christians would come to.
Wheels on the bus go.
The Needles.
Yes, darling, those are called the Needles. Very good. 1 point to you for knowing about the Needles. Top work. What do you know about the Isle of Wight?
All the clocks stopped in 1952, and all the shops are the same as they were then.
It does seem a little like that, doesn't it? Yes, there's one species of animal that's still...
Dog, cat, rat, mouse.
Hasn't made it to the Isle of Wight.
Horses.
No, there are horses on the Isle of Wight. But most people are rather pleased this animal hasn't made it, not a fox.
Flea.
Snake.
Oh, the rat, because of the magnet.
No, it's often called... It's often called a kind of rat, like pigeons.
Mouse. Squirrel.
The grey squirrel. The grey squirrel.
All right, squirrel. Stephen.
Yes, I was going,
Stephen,
yes.
Shut up, Bill.
All right, squirrel. You made the point.
Squirrel.
The grey squirrel. The North American grey squirrel.
Don't say squirrel.
The North American grey squirrel.
Well done, Alan. Very good. You're the first person to get that. No, Rob, I wouldn't do that to you.
This is an editing masterclass.
Little face.
Editing masterclass, you say. All right. The North American grey squirrel?
Red squirrel. The red squirrel can't live with the grey squirrel.
Ebony and Ivory are together on my piano keyboard, so why can't they be?
Yeah.
Something like that. Why
You
can't
mean a kind of squirrel fur keyboard?
Nice.
That's barbaric. Are you saying you want pianos clad in the pelt of a squirrel? If that's what you're saying, Fry, you should be stopped.
Isle of Wight was the last place in Britain to be invaded by the French, by a foreign
How
power.
did they miss that then?
Sorry?
How do they miss the other? Do they go onto the mainland and then straight up?
Oh, Christianity?
Yeah. And
Yes, I don't know, it's odd, isn't
when
it?
they came back, they went, hang on, what's that?
He left this bit out.
Worshipping Satan.
It was in 686 AD, almost a century after the rest of the country. Subjugated by Codwalla, who was king of the West Saxons and who had to kill most of the pagan population to Christianise it. Good old Christianity.
Now, before we start, I happen to know that one of you encountered a lot of radioactive material when you were a child. Do you know who it was?
Warning.
Yes, Josh.
It was me.
It was you. You were
What a start!
positively glowing. Why is that?
Because I was bitten by a radioactive spider. No, I grew up on Dartmoor, and there was radon.
Yes.
So we used to have these radon detectors.
Yeah.
That I had one in my room that was like a kind of plastic yellow thing that would kind of sit on a shelf and would tell you if there was radon.
Do you really believe that? It sounds like some toy your children...
I'm now starting to question whether my parents just...
mucking about.
Yeah, were taking the piss, yeah.
No, but you're right. Especially the middle of Dartmoor is the worst place in the country for radon.
Is that why he's so small? No, because you know that radiation causes mutations.
Yes, the largest source of radiation that the UK public gets comes in the form of gases radon and thoron, and being in the middle of Dartmoor, that's absolutely the worst place. Now, you two are the Birmingham team. You both grew up in Birmingham. It's actually an island of low radiation. It's very low risk, a bit like Essex.
Should we be proud of that?
Yes. I love Birmingham. I think Birmingham's fab, yeah.
Yeah, I do as well.
I love the canal. I think the canal's fantastic, no? Really?
We used to go on canal holidays to
Birmingham?
To Birmingham.
God, he is mutated.
You live in the most beautiful county in England and you go to Birmingham on your holiday.
It was a real refreshing change, actually, to see people. But my dad would say the great thing about Birmingham for canal holidays, it's got more miles of canal than Venice.
That's true, it
Which
has.
implies he'd considered Venice.
Josh, do you know why residents in Devon and Cornwall are exposed to quite as much radiation as they are?
No, I don't.
It's the ground rock. It's largely granite.
Granite.
So the granite contains small amounts of uranium that decays and that produces radon. And you can be exposed to as much as 7 millisieverts of radiation per year. So that's the same as having a CT scan. It's the same as taking 85 transatlantic flights. It is weirdly the same as eating 70 kilos of what, do you think?
Granite.
Brazil nuts.
Oh, I eat so many Brazil nuts.
They contain quite a lot of radon because they have very deep roots which can get right down into the soil that's high in radium.
What's an unsafe amount of Brazil nuts?
I mean, I think anything under 70 kilos, you're probably going to be okay.
Rob, what's the difference between a Carlisle surprise, a reverse Canterbury pleasure, and a sheep tied to a lamppost in Cardiff?
Now, this is another example of the institutionalised racism which is accepted when it's directed towards the Welsh, as it has been. Is this a reference to the joke about what is a sheep tied to a lamppost in Cardiff? It's a leisure centre.
It's awfully good.
No. And you know.
No.
You know.
No.
And you know. No. What is the difference? Well, the only thing I have knowledge of is the sheep type. No, I mean, I have knowledge of Cardiff. I don't. Well, I'm not really aware what a Carlisle surprise is, other than the shock of finding yourself at Carlisle. Which would be surely more of a delight than anything else.
Yes, a total delight.
A reverse Canterbury.
The full name is a reverse Canterbury pleasure, place double. It's an ancient English pastime.
Was it Morris dance? Is it a type of Morris dance?
Not Morris dancing, no. It has musical
Breakdance.
nature. It's not a dance. It's really big. It's as big a musical instrument as you could ever find.
A whale. So with a whale, you just put your hand over the blowhole. The whale joins in.
He's making jokes about whales. No. The name for this pastime comes originally from the Latin for countryside, but a particular part of the Latin countryside called Campania.
And so it's
Oh,
called
bells, bells.
campanology.
Yes,
Absolutely
bells.
right. It's bell ringing.
Yes.
Bell ringing.
Bell ringing. It's bells are, well, and they're tunes, or rather methods, as bell ringers call them. They're uniquely English. And if you have 6 bells, there are how many different permutations of 6 bells? Well, 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2.
Lots and lots.
720.
And lots.
And if you play through each one of those permutations, that's called a peal of bells. And it's also called, an English phrase we use quite a lot, ringing the changes, because those sequences are called changes. That's where the phrase to ring the changes comes from.
Quite interesting.
Because if you have 12 bells, there are 479,001,600 variations. So that would take 38 years to ring a peal of 12 bells.
Wow.
Amazing thought, isn't it?
When I was growing up, if my dad hit his thumb with a hammer, which he didn't do often, but occasionally just for a bit of something a bit different, you know, he'd do it. He would say, hell's bells and buckets of blood.
It's a good phrase, hell's bells and buckets of blood. Sounds good, doesn't it? It's a good way of getting out of his system. I say and things like that. Still, anyway.
Thank you for watching.